Hello, everybody. Cliff Jones with Get Clarity for Life. Today, very excited to introduce a wonderful human being and interview, Vinney Todd Tolman. Vincent Todd Tolman, author of the book, The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. Vinney, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Cliff. It's great to be here with you and excited to share my message and my experience with you and your audience.
Thanks. So your book was powerful, and I want to do the least amount of talking through this interview, but let's go back to the beginning, where you tell the part of your story as you did in the book, so we don't discourage people from buying and reading your book. Kind of the beginning of your story, as it related to your passion for fitness and lifting weights and all that.
Yeah, so my experience and my story that I put in my book is it starts when I was 25 years old. I was an amateur bodybuilder. I was currently working in kind of moonlighting in the TV and film industry as well as building homes. And that was my world at the time. And in doing so, I was always on the search for a good supplement that could make the bodybuilding process easier. And me and my one of my best friends, we found one that made that quite a bit easier. And it was a fairly new supplement. It was very popular, so you couldn't find it anywhere. It was sold out everywhere. So we went online and found some from a company in Thailand, and we ordered it. It took a good month to for it to arrive. When it came, it finally came. We opened it up and we each took a bottle cap. It's a liquid supplement, and that's where our story begins. Is and I say our, we kind of had this experience together. Um, our story begins there, where we took this supplement, and come to find out, the kind that they sell in Thailand is very different than the American version. And in fact, the Thailand version was a concentrated formula and was about 20 times stronger than the same product in the United States. So, us taking our little liquid bottle cap was like taking 20 liquid bottle caps. So right away, um, we could feel it was toxic. Something was off, very off about it. And both of us knew that if you got a little too much of this stuff, which it had happened before, but it wasn't not like this. You would maybe get a little bit too much liquid in the bottle cap, might make you feel a little nauseated. You would just go get something to eat, and you'd be totally fine. So we decided, hey, let's go get a bite to eat. And there was a fast food joint down the street. We knew it had just opened, and so we went down there to go and grab a bite, and we barely made it in there. I was
So you,
shaking him. Yeah, I was like trying to wake him up because he was starting to go unconscious while he was driving there. So I was like shaking him. I even put the car in park for him. Um, and then I opened the door. I stumbled out of the car and made my way into this restaurant. Went straight to the bathroom, and it was a single use restroom. So I locked the door and went in there. I passed out on the floor, and while I was passed out on the floor, I started to vomit, and that's what caused my death. Was I aspirated? I started vomiting while laying on my back. Meanwhile, my body, he ended up being okay because he went in and collapsed on one of the first booths that you walk into the restaurant on. And on that first booth, he began to vomit, and they called 911 ambulance services, and they were able to take him away to a hospital. In fact, come to find out, it ended up being the same hospital they ended up taking me to once they had actually revived my body. Yeah. So it was quite an experience for me, where I had worked a lot in the TV and film industry. The first thing I saw as soon as I felt the room spinning when I was passing out. That was the last, mortal thought that I had was, wow, the whole world is spinning. And then I was out. And the next thing I remember is it feels like I was sitting in a very comfortable like chair, almost like a very comfortable movie theater seat. And I was sitting there watching this film. It felt like a film, being played out in front of me. But it was very odd because this film was being shot from the ceiling looking down. And I was looking at this dead body. I was looking at this guy over here. And this is another weird part. I was looking at this guy over here who had collapsed on the booth and was vomiting. And I recognized that as my friend, but I didn't recognize my own body in that bathroom dead on the floor. I didn't recognize it at all because that wasn't a possibility even in my mind, because me was up here watching this movie, right? And it's one of those things that you almost have to experience it to understand it. But I truly didn't understand that that was my own body that I was looking at. And I continued to witness them not know that there was a dead body in the bathroom. They went ahead and, got an ambulance, and they got the first guy out of there, which is my buddy. And about 45 minutes later, there was a customer that kept trying to use the restroom and saw that the door was locked. And he happened to hear a phone ringing inside that bathroom. Almost every time that he walked over there, he could hear a phone ringing in there. So he felt like maybe the bathroom got locked and there was a phone in there, or maybe somebody was in trouble. So he went to the manager and said, "Hey, I need to use the restroom. Can you unlock it?" Manager went over there, unlocked the restroom, and come to find a dead body on the ground. He went ahead and he called 911 for a second time that day, and they coached him and his assistant manager through just checking the body for a pulse and that kind of thing. And the gal that he was having check the body, when she touched the body, she even said, like, she's like, "Oh, it's cold," and she like pulled back. She felt it was quite gross to even touch a cold body. And I say cold, but it was just cooler, cooler than normal human temperature of the 98 degrees. And so the ambulatory operator, or the 911 operator, she said, "Don't touch the body. Go ahead and secure that door, make sure it's locked, and wait for police and medical to arrive." And so they did. They secured the scene, and it was only about 5 minutes later, maybe even less than 5 minutes, there was another ambulance, a second ambulance that came. And this second ambulance was able to secure the body. They tried to resuscitate it. They did. They tried a few different things, and it didn't work. This particular ambulance did carry body bags on them, and they did roll out this body bag, a bright yellow one. They put the body in that bag and strapped it up, put it in the back of the ambulance. And there was a 3-man rookie team, or a 3-man team on this ambulance. The brand new guy was a rookie. He was sitting in the back of the ambulance. His job was to sit with the body while the other two went and did all the paperwork. So he sat back there just kind of watching the body. And as he did, he kept feeling this distraught feeling that he wanted to do more. He felt as if, why was he going through all this training if he couldn't be allowed to do more for this guy? So he was sitting there feeling that. While he was feeling that, he actually started to get a kind of glow around his heart space. And it was really odd for me. I thought that was kind of a weird choice by this movie director or whatever I was watching, that they were making the guy glow from inside his shirt. But he literally started to glow from inside his shirt with this, it looked like a warmth or some type of energy. And the ambulance, the other two came, they pulled away from the scene, and this other guy's still glowing. And out of nowhere, while they're pulling out of the parking lot and pulling onto the main road, I hear this really loud voice say audibly, "This one's not dead." And I felt it like go over where I was sitting watching all this. I felt it go over me, the energy of what this voice was. And then I felt it hit that guy. He didn't respond right away, but he did kind of like freeze. And then he relaxed again. And I actually could hear him say in his mind, that's just your imagination. And he went back to just thinking about maybe there was something else he could do for the body. And as he was doing that, the glow, it actually started to expand and not just be from his heart space. It actually started to expand and started to glow as tall as like his head all the way to his waist. And then for a second time, I heard really loud, audibly, "This one's not dead." And for some reason, that second one was enough for him. He didn't need to hear it again. He felt driven to do something for this body. So he broke protocol. You know, he is brand new, so he knows the protocol. He especially knows the protocol. He unzips this body bag and he starts feeling around for a pulse. He didn't feel a pulse, but what he did feel was some type of shock when he went and felt on the femur area or the femoral artery, the big artery on the leg. And that shock was enough for him that it was a sign. It was, to him, it was like some type of sign that the body wasn't all the way gone, that he needed to try to resuscitate it. So he did. He began to force oxygen into the lungs. He then shocked the body with a defib machine. On the first round of shocks, nothing happened. Second round of shocks, he did get one faint heartbeat, and then nothing. But then on the third round of shocks, he got a steady heartbeat. And one of the miracles of all of this is they were able to get that body turned into a cardiac team, a medical response team at a hospital within seconds of that heart starting. So it just so happens the trajectory of them driving that body in the ambulance, it took them right past the hospital, and just so happened that that heart started within a few feet of that hospital. So they were able to pull right in and get a trauma team there to actually treat and deal with that deal with that man, which was me. And again, still, I didn't know it was me though. I'm still ignorant as I'm watching all this happen, and I watched them transfer the body from the EMT gurney onto the hospital gurney, and that was the first inkling that I started to get that this was odd. Something very odd was going on here, and it was connected to me because I saw them strapping down the body. The body was going into some seizures, and as they were strapping down the body, I felt someone strapping me down. And I looked down to my left arm, which I'm left-handed, and again, I was a bodybuilder too. I I looked down to my left hand and I saw a strap on my left hand. And that was the first inkling that I had that everything that I was watching had been my own death. And I had no idea. I felt so extremely ignorant. I felt so dumb and felt so silly. Like how could I be watching all this and not know it was me? And it's almost like if you're driving down the street and you see a car that looks like your car, and you see someone in that car who looks like you, wearing clothes that look like you, but you know it's not you because you're in this car, your car driving. So that's the only explanation I can give to people, is I just didn't know. I really didn't know. And as soon as that realization came to me that what I had been watching was my own death, all this fear started pouring into me, and I felt just so horrible. I felt like, you idiot, how could you not know this was you? Like, how could you not know? And I just felt so dumb. And as I was having these negative thoughts about myself, I started to see all the bad I ever did in my life. And I mean all, even things I did as a little toddler. I saw it. I saw everything, and what might be interpreted as bad is like something naughty or something selfish or something that harmed someone, even if it was just words. But I saw every negative thing I ever did, but I didn't just see it from my own eyes. I saw it from the perspective of the person who I did it to, either advertently or inadvertently. I saw exactly how they took it. And there was many times I didn't think I was doing harm, and I was doing harm. So it's like it was crazy. I had no idea that I was having such a negative impact on so many over so many years. And I started to feel this feeling of I'm not worth existing. If this is the impact I've had, why do I exist? And as soon as I had that thought of why do I even exist, this warmth started to overtake me from behind. And it felt as if somebody kind of took the sun out from behind a cloud and put it on my back. I just felt this warming, bright feeling. And as that started to overtake me, I then started to see all the good I ever did. And man, there was a lot more good. And I'm, I was no saint at all. I was a naughty kid, and I got in lots of fights, but I did a lot of good. There was a lot of fights I broke up. There was a lot of fights I prevented. There was a lot of bullying I stopped. And I saw just so many good things that I did. And I started to realize that there was a lot of good. In fact, overall, there was far more good that I did than there was bad. And the same thing, I got to see the good impacts that I had from the perspective of the people I did it for. I got to see good responses and good impacts that I had no idea were happening, and generationally even in certain circumstances. So it was really quite amazing to see that there was this magical record out there that allowed me to see all the bad and all the good that I had ever done. And as I witnessed all that good, I really felt this tremendous love coming over me. And I knew that love was again coming from the direction of behind me. So I turned around to see what this all was. What is this warmth? What is this light? What is this love that I was feeling? So I turned around, and there I see this man who looks like God, literally looks like God. This man all dressed in white. He's wearing a long robe with a cloak kind of thing, cloak slash jacket kind of thing, and he's got his arms out. He's glowing himself, like light is actually emitting off of him, and he's got a long white beard, long white hair, and he's got these eyes that no joke, they felt like they could reach to your soul and hold it. These eyes were absolutely amazing. And I'm seeing this, and the first thing I think is, oh, this is God. And as soon as I had that thought, I heard in his voice, in my own mind, I heard him tell me, no, son, I'm not God. And my follow-up thought, and some Christians really razz me on this, but my follow-up thought was, well, if you're not God, then are you Jesus? Like, being raised Christian, I thought there's only two options there, or one option, whatever, depending on the theology you're raised in Christianity. But I thought, well, if you're not God, then you must be Jesus. And his follow-up response was, no, son, I'm not Jesus. He explained that he said, I'm your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. I can help you go back to your body, or I can help you go anywhere in the universe. And he explained that his name was Drake. He was known as Drake by his friends and family, and that I could utilize his loving service to help me go wherever I wanted to go, including back to my body. And so he motioned at that point back to my body and said, "Do you want to go back to your body?" And I contemplated it for about a millisecond, because I looked back at that body and saw the trauma and the turmoil that was still going on. I mean, the body was just still vomiting and still going through seizures. There was a guy sitting over the body itself, doing something to the chest. I think he was like injecting something to the chest. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on with that body. And I knew I didn't want anything to do with that. That to me looked like hell. So I said, I want to go wherever this love is coming from, this love that you're sharing with me. I want to go wherever that comes from. And it's weird. the way I explain it is trying to use the words of, I want to go follow the source of this love. But it was more of the energy of, wow, this is an amazing energy. Where is it coming from? I want to go there. That's essentially what I said to him, energetically, because again, we're not using words, we're using like direct understanding and communication telepathically. And he responded, well, the love that you're feeling right now is coming from your home, that's where you originally came from, and he could take me back home if I wanted to. So instantly I said, yeah, let's go home. That's what I want to do. So we began this process, this beautiful process of making my way home. I'm going to call it, home, making my way home to heaven. Uh, I had a journey. I had quite a journey. I had to learn a lot. And what I didn't realize is, even though I had been raised in a good Christian home, it was also an abusive home at the same rate. And there was a lot of abuse that I needed to overcome and release and forgive for me to actually make it to my home, to my heaven. And so we began this process of this journey, making my way towards heaven, towards home. And as we were doing this, I felt like there must be a special back door in heaven for the Christians. I really did. I fully believed that. And I told him, I said, well, I'm Christian, number one. I take Christ as my savior, and I believe that I get that special access to heaven that only Christians get. And he explained that he loved that I felt that. He loved that I had I had dedicated my life to Christ. And here's the thing, I dedicated it in word and not so much energy, because I was a kind of a selfish kid. But yet he explained to me that he was grateful and he had gratitude for the dedication I did have to Jesus Christ and to his message and his example. And as he was explaining that, he explained also that heaven is a place that is for all creation, not just for Christians, and that I would need to take my Christianity and actually add to it. I would need to add to the things that I learned as a Christian. And here's the funny thing. He said, I would have to get back to what was being taught by Christ. And as I could get to those principles taught by Christ, then I would get closer and closer towards my heaven space. And then eventually I'd get into heaven. And that was one of the first things he taught me is that heaven is a space for all of us, and that these principles that Christ brought to the world, they give us access to this heaven space, and that people can access the heaven space through those principles and through that loving energy that Christ exemplified. And in that way, Christ is a gateway, but it's not that people are necessarily saying, Christ is my path. They're taking the example of Christ and they're utilizing that as their path. But everybody's on their own path with all of this. But we began this process of understanding certain principles for me to make my way towards heaven. And the first thing I thought was going to be love. So I told Drake, I'm like, Drake, I know what the first thing I need to learn is more about love, right? And he said, no, actually, it's not. He said, the first thing that you have to learn is authenticity. You have to learn how to be authentic. And I didn't understand that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought love was like paramount. Love is foundational. Love is the reason you go to heaven. And he said, yes, that's true. But you can't be loved and you can't share love until you find out who you are. So authenticity was the most important thing for me. And he helped me understand that I had a lot of different masks that I used to wear. And that underneath all those masks, there was an authentic being. And I needed to remove all the masks and allow that authentic being to exist and be everywhere that I go. So we did that. We did the process of releasing all those false personas, all those masks that I had, and allow myself to be me. And once I was able to do that, um, then I told Drake, okay, now I've done that. Now we can learn about the love. And he's like, nope, we're still not on love. He says, next, you need to understand why you're here, why you came to Earth School. And I'm like, wait a second, love's so important. And he said, yeah, but you're in an Earth School experience. You need to know why you're here first, and then we can learn about love. And so I said, well, why did I come to Earth? And he explained that Earth has always been a school and that many of the religions got it a little wrong. Most of them accept Earth being some type of school, but they also think that Earth is some type of classroom, or sorry, some type of courtroom. And it's always been a classroom. And that was one of the first things that he explained to me is Earth is a school and it is a classroom. It never was a courtroom. That we're not coming here to be only thrown away. We're coming here to Earth School to learn what we want to learn, progress, and get the things that we want to get, and then move on and move forward with our eternal lives after Earth School. And so, he explained that we do live eternally before this, and we are going to live an eternity after this. So this is really just a pit stop for us. And it's a pit stop with a reason. There's certain things we're coming here to learn, and we're not allowed to remember those things, because if we remember them, we would mess it up. So we're not even allowed to remember why we're coming to Earth School. We come here, we sign up for almost everything that we get, and we learn from it, and then we move on as we die. So that finally got me to a point where I could start learning about love. And that's where Drake explained that, yes, love is important, and I needed to learn to love everyone. And loving everyone is paramount for all of us, because as we don't love others, we don't love ourselves. He explained the principle of the pointed finger, that whatever we put out into the universe, we're putting back on ourselves. And he explained that when we're sending energy with, pointing at someone, we're giving that same energy up to God with our thumb, because that points up to heaven. And this energy pointed outwardly. On the flip side of that, we've got three fingers pointed back at ourselves. And so those three fingers pointed back at yourself is the reciprocation of whatever energy we're putting out to the universe. So that means if I'm pointing and making fun of others, I'm taking on 3 times that energy on myself. If I'm pointing out and complimenting others, I can take on 3 times that positive energy on myself. So it's very important for us to understand that as we love everyone, that we put into the universe what we want to receive. So, do unto others as you would want done unto you. One of the primary, commandments in the Bible. That led me to the 4th principle that I was taught, and this one's kind of funny. It's to listen to your inner voice, and this was very interesting to me because here I was in this transition, going away from Earth life, at Earth School, and going into heaven, which is my original home, and I'm doing it only using my mind. I'm only using the consciousness, and I say my mind, not my physical brain, because that's back on Earth. And meanwhile, my body was actually in a coma, by the way, at this point. I was in a coma for 3 days. I was brain dead for 3 days while I was doing all this. And so I'm understanding that I've got to listen to some type of inner voice. And Drake explained that all of us have an inner voice, and that when we're children, that inner voice is very loud. And as we get older and older, our schooling, our parents, and technology will actually remove or dampen that inner voice. And it's up to us to amplify and strengthen the inner voice, especially as adults, because that inner voice can guide us. It can help us. A perfect example is, in the work that I do one-on-one coaching. I do healings and coachings, and I help people understand their own process of intuition. And an exercise I highly recommend is waking up every morning and asking God, or asking the universe, asking whatever deity you believe in, ask that deity, who needs me today? And you will be surprised if you wait and give yourself a moment to contemplate and meditate on that. You will most times get a name that comes to you. And if you will reach out to that person within 24 hours via text, email, even letter, you will watch little miracles happen in front of you. And it's a really beautiful thing. I've even had people do this exercise where they keep getting the same person each morning, and they don't reach out to that person. And eventually that person reaches out to them, because they keep feeling this ping that they're supposed to connect, that they're supposed to talk. I saw this last week, even in my own life. As I was sitting there talking to my wife, hey, we need to reach out to this person. That person texted me and we set up an appointment. So it's just one of those things where, understanding that process of listening to the inner voice is vitally important for our happiness and the happiness of others around us. That led me to the fifth principle, which is using technology responsibly. And this one was a bit different for me than what you would expect, because this happened to me when I was 25. It was over 20 years ago, this experience. And 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of technology. There's quite a bit, but it wasn't like the technology of today where everything was in your phone. I mean, back then there was Palm Pilots. Blackberries were brand new at the time, and so the technology itself was very limited. But yet, I was being emphasized and taught how important it is for us to use technology responsibly. But I was shown by Drake that eventually our society would separate into two societies. One society would start using technology like God, like it's God. They would almost worship it, put it inside their body as part of them, and that they would eventually turn completely away from that intuition, completely away from their higher self, or their spirit or their soul, and they would turn solely into the logic and turn solely into the technology. And then there's another half of us that's going to do the opposite and lean away from technology and lean towards our intuition and towards that guiding voice inside of us. And so he explained that technology can be very helpful in strengthening your soul and your spirit, but also very easily can damage or hurt the soul, or at least restrict it in some way. So using technology responsibly is vitally important for us. And that's when he explained also the sixth principle, which is release prejudice. And this one I thought I had. I was raised in a biracial home. I felt I was the least racist because of all my friends that didn't have two races in their home. I felt that must be, my card or my proof that I was not racist and I was not prejudiced. And that's when Drake said that he loved that I didn't feel I was prejudiced. But he asked me, if you're not prejudiced, how do you feel about prejudiced people? And that's when I went off. I told him that prejudiced people are evil, they're bad, and I hate them. And I felt that they're closed-minded, they were ignorant, and I had all of these labels and terms and names that I gave Drake, my heavenly guide, about prejudiced people. And he helped me see myself as like this little human body and seeing myself as not prejudiced. And he helped me see that I was grabbing myself, picking it up and putting it over with the prejudice side because I had so much prejudice towards prejudiced people. And that if I'm not prejudiced, I can't be prejudiced even towards prejudiced people. So I had to really reflect on what was going on inside my heart, inside my soul, and understand that if I was going to embrace this beautiful energy of heaven, that I had to release my prejudice even towards prejudiced people. So I did. I was given a vision. I was given a glimpse of one of my friends, or not friends, but one of somebody I grew up with that I knew was essentially prejudiced, and I was allowed to see why they were prejudiced. And there, it didn't give me an explanation of why it was okay to be prejudiced, but it did give me an explanation of there was a lot more story that I didn't know to that prejudiced person, and that they were a hurt person as a young child, and so as an adult they turned into trying to hurt others, to try to make up for the hurt that they received as a child. And that's when I realized that that's one of the reasons why prejudice is so prevalent, is because we're not loving those people through it. We are citing them out and saying they're bad, they're evil, they're racist, they're this, they're that, misogynist, whatever label we want to put on them. We're calling it that, and then we're hating them. And in doing that, we're joining them. And so that was a big one for me. I had to release all my prejudice to move forward. I had to actually say that I was okay, or feel that I would be okay loving even a prejudiced person, as long as I could understand that they had their own journey with this. And that's when the power of creation was taught to me. That was the seventh principle. And the seventh principle is if we can release our prejudice, then we are given access to the power of creation. And that all of us have access to the power of creation, but some of us use it well and some of us use it in harm to ourselves. And the power of creation is our thoughts. That all of us have a genie in a lamp. All of us have a magic wand. And our thoughts are the genie in the lamp. Our thoughts are the magic wands. What we allow to be going on in our thought process, what we allow ourselves to think, we will create. And so if we think about worries and we think about fears constantly, we will be given more opportunities to worry and more opportunities to fear. If we think in gratitude, if we think in love, we will be given more opportunities to be grateful and more opportunities to love. So it's important for us to understand that we have the power of creation and our thoughts are that power. And that one's very simple, but it's also very complex, because we can build the Taj Mahal, or we can build a conflict. It all begins with our thoughts. To build the Taj Mahal, you have to have the intention and the thoughts to build the Taj Mahal. To have a conflict, you just have to have prejudice. You keep thinking about the prejudice, and then you'll have conflict. And that was important for me to understand. I didn't realize that many times in my life there was trauma and drama happening because I was thinking about it beforehand, and that I actually created that or attracted that with my thoughts first before it actually came into the physical universe. That brought me to the eighth principle, which is avoiding negative influences. So if we have, with the seventh principle, if we have the power of creation with our thoughts, then the eighth principle of avoiding negative influences, how important is it to avoid negative influences with our thoughts? Because if we have negative influences constantly on us, that will essentially control a lot of our thought processes, and that's going to essentially create negative energy around us. So it's important for us to avoid negative influences and seek out positive influences. That's one part I wish that I got a little bit clearer in my book, is not just avoiding the negative influences, but seek out the positive influences. Because that's, so vitally important for us, that we're actively engaging in seeking out the good in all things, in our fellow man, in nature, in technology, but always actively seeking out the good, the bounty, the abundance, the benefit for humanity. And that led me to the ninth principle, that there is purpose even in evil. Because here at Earth School, we have to have the choice between good and evil. If we didn't have the choice, we would have no reason for being here. The whole reason we're here is because in heaven, where there is tremendous love, everything that our Creator wants, we want. We are in total synchronization with our Creator, because we are at such a love level for our Creator and our Creator for us, that anything that the Creator wants, we want. And we realized that we weren't learning much by just going around being supporters of the Creator, and that we needed to step away from home. We had to leave home and go to Earth College for us to grow up and to learn to make our own decisions. And part of that process is understanding there is purpose in evil, that for there to be a good, there has to be an evil. For there to be a yin, there has to be a yang. And that if we only had good options, we wouldn't be growing. That many times when we make mistakes, we're growing just as much, if not more, from those mistakes as we do from making the good choices. So it's vitally important that we have good choices and bad choices. That agency is what makes us or gives us access to growth. And then the last principle that I learned was that we are all one, that all of us are one. We are all one on God's hands. We are all one finger on God's hands. We are all one aspect of God. And that when you gather us together and you do good things together, that is where you get to see God. As we in unison do good things, we actually get to see our Creator. And as in my own life, I've served others and helped others, I can look in my own eyes and see God, or I can look in the eyes of those I serve and see God. And it's a beautiful thing to understand that our Creator is everywhere, truly everywhere, and in all things. And there is where we can find our Creator as well. That as we serve and care and love each other, we serve and care and love our Creator. But yeah, that essentially was the 10 things I had to learn to get to heaven. And as I was learning about this all one thing, I was actually plugging into this heaven space. My feet were touching the ground now at the heaven space. And as I plugged into heaven, I actually felt the grass. And the grass is a trillion colors of green, a trillion shades of green. The grass itself has a sweetness to it that even for your feet, my energetic feet were actually touching the grass and like plugging into the grass, like coming together with the grass. I could taste it going through my being. There was a sweet, energetic flavor to the grass. There was this sweet, aromatic smell coming from the grass as well. And it's funny because you smell cut grass here on Earth, and it gets kind of nostalgic. And it's weird. The reason why that's so nostalgic is because it's a little shadow of what grass really smells like in heaven. And that's why a lot of people, they get really nostalgic about the smell of grass, cut grass, fresh cut grass. And as I'm sitting there experiencing this grass, I'm doing what is like crying there. You don't cry there because you're not in a physical body, you're in an energetic body. But it felt like I was crying, the same type of energy. I was weeping. I felt so loved. I felt so unworthy of that love because I didn't feel there was anything that I'd ever done so amazing as to even just to be in this space. And that's when I realized this space is for all of us, and that there isn't anything we could do to deserve to be there. And that's the beauty of it. The whole heaven space itself is designed and built for us, and it's built out of so much love that there isn't anything we could do to earn our space there. And that it's graced to us. It's given to us because our creator loves us so much. And as I was plugging into this grass, I was recognizing that I could actually feel the presence of God through this grass, that each blade of grass had an individual consciousness, as well as that collectively it had a consciousness. And that collective consciousness, I could feel God in that collective consciousness. And the grass itself was so excited to see me, and I was so excited to see it. And I could feel this like coming back together with each other, like we had missed each other. And I didn't know that I'd missed the grass, but I sure did. And as I plugged in there, I just felt all this energy and all this healing that was starting to take place of me just remembering my home. And as the grass was, interchanging and giving me this experience, Drake uh, reached out and he said, if you think the grass is great, you need to check out the flowers. And so then instantly my consciousness was like looking at flowers and feeling the flowers and feeling the love energy, the smell, the beauty, just the amount of light that was like constantly flowing off of these flowers. And then he showed me the trees, and then water. This little stream was right there, and the stream came to me and it asked me if I wanted water on me, and I said yes. This water came up out of the stream and started at my feet and started to go up over my body, and as it did, um, it healed me of every little trauma that could have happened to me in this life. So the most harm we can get in life is instantaneously taken care of with the love energy, with the healing energy of heaven. It's so very fast, but it only works if we allow it to heal us, because we can block it. We can. And if there's any type of hell, it's us blocking heaven. That is hell. Because we're right there in heaven and we're not allowing ourselves to feel it. That would be the only hell that there is the blocking. And it would seem like hell too, actually. It would seem very tormentuous because heaven is such a beautiful, spacious space. And it's so full of love that some of us might think, hey, I'm not worth that love, and actually prevent it. So, I was sitting here experiencing the healing of this water as it pours over me. And as it got done, it went up to my head and then started to come back down and leave me. And as it did, I could feel that I was now different. I was completely different as a being. And I carry that difference with me today. Many people who knew me before my experience and know me now, they say I'm different in a very positive way, mostly. And they say that they can tell that my experience did change me, because it did completely change me. So at this point, the water is coming off of me. I notice that there's a building there. It looks like a university, and I'm allowed to know that it is some type of university or building of learning, and allowed to see how it functions. And I'm getting so excited about this building. And as I'm getting excited about it, I'm thinking that I'm going to be able to go there and start learning the mysteries of the universe, and not learn his story or history, but start learning truth, absolute truth. And as this is all going on, Drake comes to me and he puts his arm around me and he says, Vinney, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And then he hugs me. And as he hugged me, the bringing together of our two energies, the energies of both of us together, it felt like a pulsar. It felt like a quasar or a huge pulse of energy came off of the two of us. It just was like boom, like this huge energy came off of us. And I felt this cohesiveness where the two of us became one for a moment, like one in unison of love of God, one in purpose for to each other. And I felt the most supreme love from my creator, from Drake, through this experience. I could feel just the tremendous force of this love. And I could feel there was no stronger force in all the universe. Nothing is stronger than this love. And as I was experiencing all of this, I then started to hear a special prayer being given to my body. So back on Earth, in the hospital, I was brain dead in a coma for 3 days. On the third day, the third night, my brother had gone in to my hospital room, right? And he had given a special prayer over my body. I was hearing live that prayer being given to my body. And when he concluded that prayer with an amen, I felt an instantaneous pull, a yank that pulled me out of heaven and it pulled me back to my body. And the timeline is that my brother had said this prayer right around 10 p.m., right between 9:30 and 10 p.m. on the third day, the third night that I was in the hospital in a coma. And I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. So, my brother, Tyler, he said that prayer. He essentially helped with his prayer and his love for me and the love for my mom to bring me back. And I was forced back. I feel like my agency was removed, but there had to be a side of me that was okay coming back. There had to be. I don't remember that side because I was very upset that I came back. I didn't want to be back here. I wanted to go back to heaven. I wanted to go back to my home. It's on to me, the best explanation that I can give to someone why I wanted to go back so bad is it would be like you were being raised inside of a shoebox and never given the ability to get out. And one day someone gets you out of the shoebox and takes you to Hawaii or takes you to Disneyland. And then they say, okay, time to get back in the shoebox and live the rest of your life in the shoebox. It's such a downgrade to be here on Earth. The upgrade is our home, our original grade, which is our home. And I missed it vitally. I struggled with suicide for a few months up until I met Andrea. So Andrea is my wife. And when I first met her, which I met her in April, I had my experience at the end of January. So from January to April, it was very, very rough. But as soon as I met her, I saw a slice of heaven. I saw a slice of God in her eyes. And I was able to really connect to that slice of heaven. And so much so that I knew I was supposed to marry her. Even before we had been on one date, we both knew it. And, here we are married 21 years. And it's been absolutely heaven sent to have her in this world, let alone my life. And, fast forward, after meeting Andrea, I went, her influence was to help me honor my family better and love my family and love spending time with my family. And one of the things she wanted me to do was to go to a family reunion. And so we went to this reunion in the little town of Wyoming in July. So this is about 7 months after my experience, 6.5 months after my experience. I'm in this little town of Afton, Wyoming, watching a presentation of the history of the town. And here comes a huge picture on the movie screen of Drake. Um, as soon as we recognized who it was, I knew for a fact that now this wasn't just some type of delusion or some type of imagination type experience, that this was real, and that this not only was it real, the very man who was helping me still, because he was still helping me even after I came back. Drake's been working with me ever since. Um, I know who he is now. But the odd thing is, and on the information of the town presentation, it said his name was Charles. It didn't say his name was Drake. So I had a hard time with that. Like, how did I get that wrong? And I went directly to my grandmother, who had the same last name as he did. And I asked her, I said, Grandmother, do you know about this Charles Kazir? And she said, Oh, yeah, that's great grandpa Drake. I could tell you a lot about that guy. In fact, she said, You mean great grandpa Drake? Yeah, I could tell you a lot about him. And so that was a huge aha moment for me. And what a grace from heaven to me that I got to experience for months someone who I thought was possibly a delusion, only to come to find out ended up being my great, 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 great grandfather. So he, on my grandmother's side. So it's a beautiful thing for me to understand that from the whole experience, our ancestors, even those we don't know, really are our heroes, our cheerleaders, and our angel workers, our spirit workers that are working with us on a regular basis to help make our lives better. And that's when, I realized that this experience was a real experience. It wasn't a delusion. I almost had a doctor that had convinced me that what I had experienced was possibly just a delusion. But after my confirmation of Drake and finding out who he was and is, and having multiple experiences since, there's no denying it for myself. There's no denying it. It was a real experience and is a real experience. And then I needed to share it for those who were ready to hear it. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's my experience.
Vinney, I love the book. Thank you for sharing your experience again today with everybody. In the book, you describe, and you were just touching on it, the feeling of transitioning back to this realm. Um, and 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 over the years, does it still bother you? Do you still feel depression
Yeah,
or?
um, I do. I wish so bad that I could say I don't, but I do. It's just part of life. If you've gotten to see what's really there for us and you see what's going on here on Earth, you get you get a little sad because you see how far off we are here. If we even knew about the glory of just the grass in heaven, I don't think we would ever have a war. I don't think we'd ever have abuse. I don't think we would do any of the things we do. But at the same right, we've got to have the ignorance of heaven, because if we did have the memory of it, we wouldn't have that free choice, that ability to make the choices we make. We would be so influenced by that love energy. It would dampen our ability to make choices. It would make the choice for us, essentially. So, I do struggle still. It's not a perfect thing. I have good days, good months, bad months, good years, bad years. That's how it goes. But I'll tell you, as I can help others, as I can help my family, as I can love my family, it does get better and better and better. So I'm just taking it one day at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time, this journey. And like I said, it's been 21 years now. So coming this January, it'll be 21 years on the dot, on January 18th, since my death. Yeah.
Well, I explain to our family as the patriarch now that in my experience, my suffering, my trauma, my wounds were the gateway to the healing, the acceptance, the
Hmm.
unconditional love that we're to strive for so that we can, especially as a younger man with a lot of fear, anger, resentments, harsh self-judgments, condemnation of everything that I didn't like or perceive that I like, that was the opportunity to wake up, which is
Yeah,
as you describe it. If this is truly a classroom, then I would describe anybody listening to this. If you're going through a tough time, embrace it and go into it for the lessons that we can learn as that gateway to healing and transcending human suffering.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
so when in your coaching practice today, what are the predominant issues or problems or suffering that people are bringing to you that you help them work through?
Well, the number one thing that I run into is purpose. People don't have purpose. They may be a doctor, they may be a lawyer, they may be a TV personality. I work with quite a few billionaires. Like they have jobs, but they don't have purpose. And so what we do is we kind of tap in and help them find what their purpose is and realize that there's something there about whatever job they're doing that they can now find purpose in. Or some people they find out this isn't the job for me, and they switch careers even through coaching. So, it's a beautiful thing though because in 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 our past we used to have religion to help us make so many decisions, and we've seen a mass exodus away from religions and away from religious theology even. And what are people turning to now for all their questions? They're using their technology. And I feel that for most of the world, technology has become God. And that is a false God, not a real God. I feel that the real God, the real creator, the real source of life in this universe is far greater than the best phone or the best Google or the best any of that. That it's extremely important for us to go back to what our ancestors did and get the answers from within. Stop trying to find answers outside you because there is no solution outside you. The only real solutions you will ever have or find are solutions inside you. And there you have access to the universe. The entire universe is within you, and you have access to it. So the universe is a much better Google than Google. So really go in, dive in, and that's what I do. I help people dive into their own inner universe. The you inverse. So they're able to get access to those solutions, get access to the higher knowing, higher understanding, and then of course, in the process of doing all this, many of us, for us to connect to our intuition, for us to connect to our higher self, to our soul, we have to do some healing. So part of that process is helping them through the process of healing, so that we can connect to who they really are. Yeah.
What do you have to say to the occasional naysayer or person who would question or condemn you for your experience and your story and your coming back and doing the work you're kind of doing now to help us find our purpose and
Well,
heal?
it reminds me of a good old movie, The Gods Must Be Crazy. If you remember that movie, a bottle was dropped out of a Coke bottle was dropped out of an airplane, and that Coke bottle became a symbol of power in a tribe, and it became a tool. And there was so many aspects to this Coke bottle, um, and it's funny, it was still just only a Coke bottle, you know. And some people they look at my experience as some type of gospel or some type of special anything, and I say no, it's just my experience. And then others look at it as like, um, this isn't what I read in my Bible, so it can't be right. And here's the thing: the Bible is the tip of the iceberg for all of us. Even the prophets of old told us that God has a loving relationship directly with us, So when we don't have those answers, it's important for us to find the answers through God. And that's what I do. I help people all day long build a relationship with God, or what they call God, and then get their own answers there. So for someone who has a problem with me, my story, and whatever, I love them. I really do. I love them, and I say, you know what? I'm glad you're passionate. I love that when people can be passionate about anything, even if it's anti-passionate, or passionate about anti-Vinney, whatever. But I love that when people can be passionate, because it this world nowadays is raising a bunch of people that are not passionate about anything. They're passionate about their entertainment, they're passionate about their games, and that's it. And that's just from marketing. That has nothing to do with actual passion. So this world is quite a different place now. And yeah, there's some people that love me, there's some people that hate me. I would say 95 to 98% of people who meet me or work with me can say that they love what I do, they love what I stand for. It's a very, very small percentage that don't like what I do. So to them, I'd say I love you guys, and I love that you have your path. Not everyone's path is the same, but I love people towards me. I love people away from me, whichever way they need to go.
I love the way you put that. So, in conclusion, we've been talking to Vinney Tolman, Vincent Todd Tolman, author of the book The Light After Death. Vinney, where can people find your book to buy it, and how do they get in touch with you if they're interested in coaching with you?
Well, the book is available Amazon, Audible, Kindle. Um, we're about to get distribution in a couple like bookstores everywhere as well. But as of right now, Amazon is the primary source for that. And then I have a nonprofit that I run all of my coaching through. I have a nonprofit that we do help people in this process of spiritually activate their core. And that nonprofit itself is called Living God's Light. So just livinggodslight.com. They can actually access the book through that. They can access me there through there. They can email me there. Yeah, they can do everything there on the website, livinggodslight.com.
Vinney, thank you very much for your time today. Super grateful you could share your story with us, and I hope to see you soon, especially if you're down in the Phoenix area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be there for Ions this year. So that would be cool. If you could make it to Ions, you'd have a great experience. It's an absolutely amazing organization. I love it. Yeah.
Well, Vinney, thanks again for being with us today at Get Clarity for Life.
Thanks so much, Cliff. Have a great day, okay?
Yes, you too.